on a warm summer's evening, on a train bound for nowhere, I met up with a gambler. We were both too tired to sleep, so we took turns of staring out the window at the darkness till boredom overtook us, and he began to speak. He said, "Son, I've made a life out of reading people's faces and knowing what the cards were by the way they held their eyes. So if you don't mind my saying, I can see you're out of aces. For a taste of your whiskey, I'll give you some advice." So I handed him my bottle, and he drank down my last swallow. Then he bummed a cigarette and asked me for a light. And the night got deathly quiet, and his face lost all expression. Said, "If you're gonna play the game, boy, you gotta learn to play it right. You got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done." Every gambler knows that the secret to surviving is knowing what to throw away, knowing what to keep. 'Cause every hand's a winner and every hand's a loser, and the best that you can hope for is to die in your sleep. And when he'd finished speaking, he turned back toward the window, crushed out his cigarette, faded off to sleep. And somewhere in the darkness, the gambler, he broke even. But in his final words, I found an ace that I could keep. You got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. You got to know when to hold 'em, when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. You got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the deal is done.
Bright light city, gonna set my soul, gonna set my soul on fire. Got a whole lot of money that's ready to burn, so get those stakes up higher. There's 1,000 pretty women waiting out there. They're all living the devil may care, and I'm just a devil with love to spare. So viva Las Vegas, viva Las Vegas. How I wish that there were more than 24 hours in the day. Even if there were 40 more, I wouldn't sleep a minute away. Oh, there's blackjack and poker and the roulette wheel, a fortune won and lost on every deal. All you need is a strong heart and a nerve of steel. Viva Las Vegas, viva Las Vegas. Viva Las Vegas with your neon flashing and your one-armed bandits crashing, all those hopes down the drain. Viva Las Vegas, turning day into nighttime, turning night into daytime. If you see it once, you'll never be the same again. I'm gonna keep on the run, I'm gonna have me some fun. If it costs me my very last dime, If I wind up broke, well, I'll always remember that I had a swing in time. I'm gonna give it everything I've got. Lady luck, please let the dice stay hot. Let me shoot a 7 with every shot. Viva Las Vegas! Viva Las Vegas! Viva Las Vegas! Viva, Viva Las Vegas!
Good morning, everyone. So nice to see you here. So nice to see you online. Yes, there you are. We begin the service as we begin it every Sunday, to ring our bell to bring us back into covenant. Our covenant with the past calls us to join in solidarity with the Muwekma tribe of the Ohlone Nation, who were displaced, colonized, and removed from their land. Our efforts help them to preserve their heritage and pass on their customs and culture to their descendants, and it helps to bring us back into connection with the land. Our covenant with ourselves, Our covenant with ourselves and one another is to renew our inherent goodness by making amends for the harm we may have caused, intentionally or unintentionally, to ourselves, our families, our community, or those around us. And we covenant with the future, promising our children and our children's children to always remember that this world is not ours alone, but it is a gift which we are called to shepherd and to deliver in good stead to those who will follow.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. My name is Brian. It's good to see everybody here today, and Greg has tasked me with this call to worship. And so I'll begin this sports-themed call to worship with a confession, which is that I love baseball. I especially love seeing a game live. There are so many games within a game, if you know what you're looking for. I like to have a dinner of peanuts and beer. I like hearing the crowd's anticipation of their favorite player when they come to the plate. And in what other sport can you take a thing that's normally in play and put it in your pocket and go home? Try that at a golf tournament or football game. I also loved playing baseball. This will be hard for most of you to believe, but I was actually, at one time in my life, pretty good at it. I used to have upper body strength. In fact, I was so good, I was good enough to be paid for it. So it's kind of cool to be able to put baseball player next to the occupation line in your tax return. And because I played baseball for about 20 years, I could tell you about 200 stories from my time playing it. And I could probably share 5 times that many observations and hot takes about today's game. Most of these stories and opinions would be boring to most people. There's only so many people who want to hear my rants about Little League, or who would share an interest in the importance of on-base percentage plus slugging as a true measure of offensive output, or who can recall that infamous Game 3 of the 1994 World Series. In any event, I was asked by Greg to share a few words about my enduring love of baseball, but the truth is that it hasn't been enduring all of those 30 years since I last swung a bat in anger. The reason my relationship with baseball has been off again, on again, has a lot to do, I suspect, with what we'll be talking about in this series. So I'll add my contribution with this. Despite having a minor in economics in college, my education about how the actual American economy works began in the spring of 1995. Remember that 1994 World Series Game 3 I just mentioned? That was a trick question because there was no World Series played in 1994. What did happen instead in the fall of 94 and the spring of 95 was a protracted war that involved three groups. It involved a group of people who were fighting over the revenues generated by Major League Baseball. It involved another group of people who were trying to get their share of the revenues or more of the pie of revenue that was generated by Big League Baseball. And a third group who were most affected by this fight over that big pile of money, but whose opinion wasn't sought on the matter, and their struggle didn't factor into that war in any way. I'll let you guess about which of those three groups that I was a part of, but here's a hint. Despite it being cool to put baseball player next to the occupation line in your tax return, at a rate of pay of $950 a month, the taxable income entry was a lot less cool. And actually, I'll add a fourth group to the groups who are involved in that struggle. About 2,000 miles away from where a certain left fielder was sweating under a hot Tucson sun trying to improve his craft, there was a certain baseball fan sweating under a hot Kansas City sun in the left field bleachers, eating a bag of peanuts, probably drinking whiskey that she had smuggled into the park. That's a guess. It's my story. I get to embellish the details as I see fit. But this fan participated in a fan walkout in the second inning of that game, a game they had paid to attend. They got up and they just left. They just left the game. Now, why would they do that? Why were several thousand fans pay to attend a game and then leave? Well, they were asserting their support of a framework under which all teams were treated the same, were treated as equals. So they left their seats in voice of opposition to a system, the one in place then and the one, I should add, are just largely in place now, in which some teams viewed themselves as simply better than others, more wealthy, more famous, more powerful, and therefore much more deserving of a chance to win, having the odds stacked in their favor. So with 30 years of hindsight, it's clear now that that baseball stoppage in 1994 and 1995 was a struggle between not four groups of individuals or four groups of interests, but rather two. There was the handful of the very powerful and a much larger group of the largely powerless. And so with this call to worship, I want to remind us or observe that one of the other gifts about baseball and really sports in general is that, for better or worse, it gives us a lens through which we can view and better understand the forces shaping our economy and our world. And now we will do the chalice lighting. Together, the foundation of Mission Peak is love. We are a spiritual community of open minds, nurturing growth and healing in ourselves and all people. Together we strive to live compassionately and courageously as we work for a nonviolent, just, and sustainable world.
Good morning, Mission Peak. Don't touch the mic. I'm Jay Steele. I'm not Michelle Wallace, who couldn't make it today. That was very cool, by the way, Brian. Is that your first time speaking to us?
First time speaking.
Thank you. Yoo-hoo. So again, my name is Jay Steele. My pronouns are he and his, and I'm a member of the board. It's my honor to be your president for this year. We are so glad you've joined us this morning. I'm so happy to see all of you. And Zoom folks, I'm going to start out by highlighting some current announcements. Next Saturday, from 2 to 4, our city council member for Fremont, Desiree Campbell, will be teaming with Abode's CEO, Vivian Wan, and Fremont for Everyone founder, David Bonacorsi, to lead a conversation. That's here, right, in Cole Hall? No, that is...
It should say on here, where is it? That's community church. We'll put it in the week on the piece.
Okay, keep an eye out for that at the community church. Today, after the service, we're hosting Sandwich Squad. I think Ariel will be leading that, where we make sandwiches over there. And we're going to be sharing the sandwiches with some unhoused people down by the slabs, down the street. Everyone is welcome to help make sandwiches and deliver them. See the clipboard outside the kitchen for instructions on how to help. Sandwich makers can eat one before we leave. Some will walk or some will drive down to the slabs. Please silence your electronic devices. Unitarian Universalism is a radically inclusive, non-doctrinal, non-dogmatic, open-minded, and open-hearted faith. We are people who are coming at truth from different paths. We gather together across different identities, experiences, and beliefs to affirm and promote the inherent worth of every person. Together, we see our job is to love the hate out of the world, heal the hurt in ourselves and one another, and be the change we like to see in the world. If you're a guest for the first time, you're invited to share in our joys and concerns. There's a book over there and a lovely membership table. And we'll also have social hour after the service, although that might be impacted by Sandwich Squad. There's a link for Zoomies. There's a link to our weekly newsletter in the chat to share all the events coming up. We encourage you to join anything that speaks to you. We are so glad to be together today. Let's end by waving to our friends in Zoomlandia and feel the joy of being part of one large beloved community. Welcome and thank you to our members and friends near and far.
And while Jay goes over to the piano to lead us, please rise and join in singing our opening hymn, Guide My Feet.
I'll play through it once. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain, race in vain. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Search my heart while I run this race. Search my heart while I run this race. Search my heart while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain.
It's my family.
What's with the lights?
Oh, all the stadiums have them now. Even Wrigley Field.
Makes it harder to see the ball.
Yeah, well, the owners found that more people could attend night games.
Owners.
Mr. Jackson, this is my wife, Annie, and my daughter, Karen.
Ma'am? Hi.
Are you a ghost?
Karen? Just kidding.
It's okay. What do you think?
You look real to me.
Well, then I guess I'm real.
Would you like to come inside?
Thanks. I don't think I can. Can I come back again?
Yeah. I built this for you.
There are others, you know. There were 8 of us. You really mean a lot to them.
Yeah. Anytime. They're all welcome here.
Hey! Is this heaven?
No. It's Iowa.
Where's he going?
I don't know. We're keeping this field.
You bet your ass we are.
I think it's time for me now. Just as Jay is not Michelle, I'm not Don Ramey. Don is staying home because he's sick. Thank you, Don. And he and Drew Wilson and others have written part of what I have to say. This is a pulpitorial on aesthetics and music discretionary fund. How many people want us to look good and sound good? That's what this is about, getting a little bit of extra money to make us look good and sound good. And the music people here are really organized. I have to admit I'm one of them. So we have a spiel. The aesthetics people seem to be more silent, but just spread beauty around us, and we thank them, especially Barbara Myers. Why support the music program? Music has always been an important part of Mission Peak. In the early days, we had so many musicians. We had quite a variety of service music, and even an amateur orchestra. I got to bring that back. Not that I don't have enough things to do. Way back in November of 2024, as part of the first auction Sunday, we held a workshop dedicated to brainstorming ideas for expansion of the music program, particularly in regards to more community involvement. One idea was for at least a quarterly sing-along open to the general public, perhaps including an open mic component. Folks expressed interest in hosting concerts, such as the Scottish music and dance event we once had with Shauna's Peninsula Scottish Fiddlers, or the Clear Story professional a cappella choir that Vaughn sings with. Also suggested was events featuring music for encouragement, more music services, a potluck with an open choir rehearsal and singing for democracy, as was done in the Baltic states, aka the Singing Revolution. We are currently borrowing the mics used by the choir, and we should get a more permanent solution, which would involve some equipment purchases. And by the way, I'd like to point out all the mics and all that stuff and the work that Elizabeth and others do is to make sure it sounds good to you and sounds good on Zoom. And that's not easy to make it sound good both places at the same time. These are just some of the ideas that have been floated, and they will need to be evaluated and prioritized before being implemented, but we can't even do that without funds. Many of the events would have expenses, including Vaughn's time, which might not be recovered from admission or suggested donations. Some, like the potluck, shouldn't charge at all, but expenses still need to be covered. Therefore, a generous donation to this Share the Plate will help keep the music flowing and growing at Mission Peak. Let's let Mission Peak be a beacon of the arts, both visual and auditory, as well as a beacon of liberal religion and social justice. They are all aspects of spreading love. We're excited to give you this opportunity to support the aesthetics and music that make our worship services so powerful. These funds empower our leaders to be more creative and inclusive. We're hoping that this translates into more inspired moments at Mission Peak and more excitement for our children, youth, members, and visitors. We hope that you can see how your contributions help change people, and through changed people, change the world. Somewhere I'm supposed to say that if you're donating to the special fund by check, put the word August in the memo line. We figured it'd be too much to write aesthetics and or music special fund, so just write the word August. Or if you're donating your pledge, write the word pledge. Cash will be assumed for the special contribution. Do we have the slide up? Slide the slide up. Yes, here are some of the many ways your contribution will make a difference. Make your check out to MPUUC at the address on the screen, and put August in the memo line. There it is. You can also use the bill pay option in your online banking, or drop your check into the Mission Peak mail slot, or pay online with a credit or debit card, but I think there's a 3% surcharge when you go through the website. Thank you. Yes?
Can you go back to that slide quickly? Can I just interject one?
Sure, sure.
For those of you who don't know, if like me, you don't carry cash, and click the QR code, that will bring you right to the donate part of our webpage, and you can make a donation.
Thank you for actually distributing the plates. Thank you for supporting our efforts to change things for the better, and have fun doing it. Your contributions make loving, learning, and leadership more possible.
Thank you, Paul. Here at Mission Peak, one of the most essential parts of our mission is that we come together to keep hope alive in ourselves and one another and in the world. We do that by offering witness to one another, affirming one another's joys and milestones, and consoling one another in those losses endured, in the disappointment that follows. If you have a joy or concern that by sharing with this caring community might bring resilience or meaning, please write it briefly in the chat if you are with us online, or in the book in the back if you are here in Cole Hall. When the music plays, you are also welcome to come forward and place a stone in our stone garden.
Hi.
You're interrupting the game, Mark.
Ray. Ray, it's time to put away your little fantasies and come down to earth.
It's not a fantasy, Mark. They're real.
Who is real?
Shoeless Joe Jackson, the White Sox, all of them.
You mean?
No, you can't see any of it.
Well, who's this? Elvis?
Ray.
As a matter of fact, it's Terrence Mann.
Right. How do you do? I'm the Easter Bunny. Ray, listen, we need to
I'm
sell
not
this
selling
thing, right?
you.
Ray, you have
Look,
no
I'm not
money.
selling
Ray,
you my
Ray, you
home.
have no money. You have a stack of bills to choke a pig, and come fall, you got no crop to sell. But I do have a deal to offer you that's going to allow you to stay on the land.
Daddy, you don't have to sell the farm.
Let us buy you out. We'll leave the house. You can live on it rent-free as long
What
as
about
you
the
want.
baseball field?
Ray, do you realize how much this land is worth?
Yeah. 2,200 bucks an acre.
Well, and you got to realize we can't keep a useless baseball diamond in the middle of rich farmland.
Read my lips, Mark. We're staying, all right? We're staying.
Ray, you're bankrupt! I'm offering you a way to keep your home because I love my sister. Now, my partners, Ray, they don't give a damn about you, and they're ready to foreclose right now.
Daddy, we don't have to sell the farm.
Karen, please.
Just wait. Wait.
People will come
What people, sweetheart?
from all over. They'll just decide to take a vacation, see? And they'll come to Iowa City. You'll think it's really boring, so they'll drive up and want to pay us, like buying a ticket.
All right. This is fascinating. It is. But the fact remains is that you don't have the money to bring the mortgage up to date, so you're still going to have to sell. I'm sorry, Ray. We got no choice.
Ray. People will come, Ray. They'll come to Iowa for reasons they can't even fathom. They'll turn up your driveway, not knowing for sure why they're doing it. They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past. Of course, we won't mind if you look around, you'll say. It's only $20 per person. They'll pass over the money without even thinking about it. For it is money they have, and peace they like.
Ray, just sign the papers.
And they'll walk out to the bleachers. Sit in shirt sleeves on a perfect afternoon. They'll find they have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines where they sat when they were children and cheered their heroes. And they'll watch the game, and it'll be as if they'd dipped themselves in magic waters. The memories will be so thick, they'll have to brush them away from their faces.
Ray, when the bank opens in the morning, they'll foreclose.
People will come, Ray.
You're broke, Ray. You sell now or you lose everything.
The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball. America has rolled by like an army of steamrollers. It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again. But baseball has marked the time. This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again. Oh, people will come, Ray. People will most definitely come.
Ray, you will lose everything. You will be evicted. Come on, Ray.
Not signing.
Oh, you're crazy. Absolutely nuts!
People will come, Ray. People will come for reasons they can't even fathom. They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children longing for the past. They'll pass over the money without even thinking about it, for it's money they have and peace they lack. They'll walk out into the bleachers and sit in their shirt sleeves on a perfect afternoon. They'll find that they have reserved seats somewhere along the baselines where they sat when they were children and cheered their heroes. And they'll watch the game, and it will be as though they've dipped themselves in magic waters. Memories so thick they'll have to brush them away from their faces. The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball. America is ruled by an army of steamrollers. It has been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again, but baseball has marked the time. It's a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that was once good and could be good again. Oh, people will come, Ray. People will most definitely come. Most people did not hear these words this morning for the first time. Thanks in part to the iconic baritone of James Earl Jones, who is also Darth Vader, portraying a reclusive, cynical, cantankerous, fictional writer, baseball aficionado named Terrence Mann. This has become one of the most well-known soliloquies of baseball we have. One of the things that you may not know is that the original book written by W.P. Kinsella, entitled Shoeless Joe, named the character portrayed by James Earl Jones in the movie not as Terrence Mann, but as J.D. Salinger. Kinsella and Universal Pictures had to change the name in the movie because Salinger, a true recluse, threatened to sue them if his name appeared in the movie. It didn't matter that they offered him a lot of money. Apparently, money can't buy you everything. The book and the movie are part of fantastical realism, part tribute and part warning. This morning, I'd like to dive a little bit into these last two aims, and the reason is because I love baseball. And I've loved baseball long enough and honestly enough to really understand the many ways it has to break our hearts and the ways it can kill a young person's dreams and that it knows where to bury the bodies. In 1921, Kennesaw Mountain Landis, newly appointed commissioner of baseball, investigated 8 players on the heavily favored Chicago White Sox and ruled that they be banned from baseball for their efforts to bet against themselves and intentionally lose the World Series to collect on those bets. This included Shoeless Joe Jackson, who during the World Series hit .375 with 12 hits, 6 RBIs, and no errors, and the White Sox only home run. Almost everyone who reviewed the evidence in the investigation felt that there was no doubt that the games were fixed and that multiple players were involved. There was evidence that Jackson, as well as the other 7 players, were paid. For decades, gambling and fixing games was considered the cardinal sin of baseball. What remained unknown was whether the White Sox were the only team that did it. But 2 more things were left in doubt. Whether America would ever again trust a game so prone to surrender its integrity for money, and whether Jackson could ever love something as much as he loved baseball. I don't watch baseball anymore. I haven't been to a game or watched one on TV for 2 seasons. But when I was a boy, baseball was everything. The source of all possibility and magic. At home, our mother was anxious and a little overwhelmed, not naturally playful or attentive. My siblings and I weren't particularly prone to showing up or working hard or playing as a team. When things got hard, we tended to scatter. But being on a baseball field seemed so different. To time and position the swing of a bat to hit a moving pitch, to run the bases and turn a single into a double, to outrun a soaring fly ball, stretch and pull it into your glove, knowing every single inch of effort was required. I found a level of confidence in myself that I had never discovered at home. And best of all, to be part of a team when everyone was pulling together, where we each made one another a little bit better. And the other team was never the enemy. They were the ones who forced us to be our best. Being on the field in a game was the closest thing to heaven I had ever known. I used to have conversations with God while I was playing that were simply about just being the best version of myself I could be. And it always felt like God was encouraging me, cheering me on, even betting on me. Thinking back, I'd concede God wasn't actually betting on me. God was betting on baseball. Not in a point-shaving kind of way, but in a good way. Betting that by giving the game everything we had, the game would show us the fullness of who we were, what was possible. And player and team and fan and even God himself could all relish in that magic. I think baseball and America are the same that way, that working hard and working together can be magical. When we go all in and bet on each other, nothing is impossible. But when we take the easy way, bet against ourselves or the people on our team, then even the game itself becomes a losing proposition. For as long as there have been sports in America, there has been gambling on sports in America. George Washington used to bet on cockfights. The first gambling on sports were foot races during the colonial period. And then bare-knuckle fighting appeared, followed by more sanctioned fighting, which was only established so that people could bet on them. That's why when the White Sox scandal broke, the commissioner and the owners came down hard. The integrity of the game had been called into question. The position taken by organized baseball needed to irrefutably assume an anti-gambling stance just to restore the integrity of the game. But a little over 50 years after the White Sox scandal, a few things occurred that are interesting. This movie, Field of Dreams, was released in April of 1989. It generated some sympathy for players like Shoeless Joe Jackson and the White Sox, who were banned for life. 2 years later, in 1991, Paul Giamatti came down hard on Pete Rose for gambling. Rose, it was determined, bet on sports, even on baseball, while he was the player manager of the Cincinnati Reds, despite there being no evidence that he ever bet against his own team. A first ballot Hall of Famer was quickly and permanently canceled from the game. Then in 1992, New Jersey Senator Bill Bradley, a former NBA player and champion with the New York Knicks, passed legislation known as the Professional Amateur Sports Protection Act, PASPA, which made it illegal for states other than Nevada to legalize sports betting. It was celebrated by all professional and amateur sports organizations who were noticing more and more players get involved in illegal gambling or being threatened by gamblers upset by those lost bets. The response to this legislation being passed was overwhelmingly positive. But around the same time, a man by the name of Dan Ockrent invented another game called rotisserie league baseball, where a group of friends could make like hypothetical general managers and draft professional players to be on their fantasy teams. Tournaments were formed and top teams could win a small amount of money for gathering the players that amassed the best statistics. But it was all mostly just for fun. This continued in a relatively harmless way for nearly 2 decades before a group of computer programmers in 2009 figured out how to monetize fantasy leagues so that payouts came daily rather than waiting for the cumulative results of the end of the season. And they took this concept and applied it to other sports as well. That company that was formed was named FanDuel. In 2012, a similar group of programmers in Boston joined FanDuel, and they called their company DraftKings. These two platforms grew, and after a few years, a bunch of venture capitalists began throwing a lot of money at them. By the start of the 2015 NFL season, these two companies were outspending the entire beer industry in TV ads. It wasn't long before the volume of revenue caught the eye of legislators concerned that this may be a violation of the restrictions on the gambling outlined by PASPA. But lawyers for fantasy sports argued that fantasy sports wasn't actually gambling because what players in fantasy leagues were doing was more like what general managers did, putting together teams that was a matter of mastering statistical skill as opposed to wagering in a game of chance, which is the principle behind gambling. They argued that what they were doing was sport, requiring skill, like entering into a fishing tournament or a golf tournament. They said it was irrelevant that enormous volumes of money were being won and lost in these contests. FanDuel and DraftKings won the case, in large part because of the huge amount of money they threw at it in legal fees and the number of lobbyists that began pushing that agenda. Well, during this same time, a separate legal challenge was underway. Senator Bill Bradley had now retired, and his state of New Jersey, ironically, was the state pushing against the legislation he had passed 25 years earlier, which made gambling illegal. But PASPA was federal legislation, and New York was claiming it to be unconstitutional on the grounds of the same premise that slaveholders, gun and abortion advocates, and gerrymandering politicians lobbied with. In other words, states' rights. Again, advocates of repealing PASPA came up with a ton of money, which they used to put a referendum on the New Jersey state ballot, asking citizens if they were in favor of legalizing sports betting. It passed by a 2/3 margin. Now, referendums have no legal authority. They simply announce public opinion. But that was enough to change the mind of New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who overnight went from being a staunch defender of PASPA to advocating of legalized sports betting. A team of advocates with the citizens and the governor now on their side challenged PASPA in the lower federal courts 7 times between 2016 and 2017. They lost all 7 cases, but they did manage one monumental victory. They succeeded in getting the Supreme Court to hear the case. In May of 2018, the Supreme Court laid out its decision in Murphy versus the NCAA that PASPA was unconstitutional. What happened next happened faster than anyone could imagine. In the next 6 years, 38 states, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico have all legalized sports gambling using the incentive that states receive a piece of the action. The percentage of revenue for sports gambling varies from state to state, with Indiana collecting a little less than 10% and New York receiving over 50%. Professional and college sports, Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NBA, and the NCAA had all, like the states, been opposed to legalizing sports betting because they felt it was essential to protect the integrity of the game. But now, after its passing, they all were receiving a stake in the profits. The states even agreed to offer tax-free incentive on initial free bets to get people signed up and into the sports betting environment, which is a little like allowing the alcohol industry, after prohibition is repealed, to hold free drinks under the alcoholic's nose. In return for this revenue, the sports industrial complex has promised to regulate themselves, a proposal so suspect it should prompt Shoeless Joe Jackson, Pete Rose, and the entire White Sox team to roll over in their grave. But fear not. This past May, Rob Manfred, the current commissioner of Major League Baseball, lifted the lifetime ban on the 17 players who tarnished the integrity of the game by gambling. It's hard to condemn others for something that you are doing yourself. If you're still wondering how all of this was allowed to happen, consider this. In 2017, the year before the Supreme Court struck down a federal law against sports betting, legal sports bookies in the United States generated roughly $300 million in revenues. In 2023, they took in over $11 billion. In 2017, Americans cast roughly $5 billion in legal sports bets. Last year, it was more than $120 billion. 5 years makes a big difference. In 2017, FanDuel and DraftKings were small companies running on fumes. Today, they are each valued at over $25 billion. And the repercussions are enormous, in part because it's now possible to bet on more than which team wins, but how many strikeouts a pitcher records, or touchdowns a quarterback does, or rebounds a NBA player gets. Reports of death threats to players for not covering performance spreads has skyrocketed. And the integrity of the game, not just baseball, but all of sports, has never been in more question. This past week, you may have read our Week on the Peak newsletter, where board member Michelle Wallace cited the biblical adage of 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 10, "The love of money is the root of all evil." Not money itself, which is quite useful if anybody really wants to eat or stay alive, but the love of money over the love of the game. This is what causes us to lose sight of our integrity. And it's not just fun and games. The influence of big money on politicians, legislation, and democracy itself is chipping away at the integrity of everything that we do and compromising how great we can be together as a nation. America is ruled by an army of steamrollers. It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again, but baseball has marked the time. Think back to the clip in that movie that we saw earlier where Mark walks across the field while the game is in process, trying to get his sister's family to sell the land where they built the baseball field. He was so focused on the question of money in his head, he couldn't even see the players or the game going on around him. It was only when he got a glimpse of the magic that the field became real, and it became more than land, and the players became people. I haven't watched baseball for over 2 seasons. When I do, it all just looks like a bunch of money to me. But I still think the game itself is truly magic. I still hear God encouraging me to be my best self. And I still think God is betting on the game and not on the money to make us all better. May it be so. Closing hymn number 205, Amazing Grace.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a soul like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. When we've been there 10,000 bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun.
Please join with me in the chalice extinguishing.
Just tricky because it's already gone out.
It's already up? Well,
chalice.
that chalice.
You can blow this one out.
Okay, I was waiting for it to come up on the iPad. And there it is. All right. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Friends, hand on your heart, one reaching out to our best intention. It is important to believe that people will indeed come. To believe, as God encourages us to believe, that people really can distinguish between what is truly great within us and all the false promises of greatness that money casts around us. Keep your eyes and your heart open and become the change you want to see. God is betting on you and on us to restore the magic that is missing in this world. May it be so. Amen. And thank you to Jay and to Elizabeth and our new worship associate, Brian Culp.